my name's Joelle and I'll be your yoga teacher today. If you've never done yoga before, don't worry, we're going to keep our practice really gentle. And I'll show you some modifications so that you can decide throughout what works best for you. Throughout the class, always ensure that you're listening to your body. If at any point you feel dizzy or if you feel pain, then please stop and speak to your doctor before continuing with the exercise. Also, always make sure that any vascular access points remain safe throughout the practice. You're welcome at any point to take a rest if necessary, but besides that, just relax, have fun, and enjoy the practice. And when you're ready, I'll meet you on the mat. So in our first practice, we're going to be moving from lying down to sitting to standing. This is going to be an ideal practice to wake up the body and just energize it to get going into our day. So we'll begin by lying down, and that might be on your bed, or you might have a chair nearby to help you get back down and stand back up. So by lowering one knee and then the other, taking your time, and I'll meet you once you're ready on your back. So if this is the first thing that you're doing this morning, the body is likely tired and stiff. So take a moment here, close the eyes, and start to take some deep breaths in and out through the nose. So in yoga, we often work with a breath known as ujjayi breath, where the breath is kept deep but not forced, and where we look for a slight contraction in the back of the throat, making the breath audible, like the sound of a wave at the beach. So let's try that together by keeping the lips softly closed, breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. And one more time, inhaling through the nose and exhaling out softly. And then keeping this gentle breath going throughout, just very gently start to rock the head from one side to the other. This can be a really small movement, just waking up through that neck. Maybe coming down onto the ear. And just taking a few more at your own pace. Or you could also just hold still with the eyes closed, still focused on your breath. And then wherever you are, bringing the head back to center, we'll keep the upper arms on the mat. Just make little fists with the hands and start taking them around in one direction. Waking up those hands, which will do so much for us today. And then just reversing that circle. Maybe some little pops and cracks. We all get those in the morning, don't we? And then you can release, flutter the fingers out, set them down next to you, press into all four corners of the left foot, and then lift that right foot up towards the ceiling. And we'll take some little ankle circles and see if we can find any of those same snap, crackle, pops in one direction and then reversing. You can keep the knee bent. And then gently returning that foot to the mat, pressing firmly down so that you can lift the other foot and find those same ankle circles. And then going the other way. Wonderful. Let's return that second foot down to the mat as well. And just very gently rocking the knees a little bit from side to side. Again, no need to take them too far. This is just animating a little bit into that hip area. Maybe feeling a little bit of sensation in the belly as well. And let's bring the knees back to center. Open the eyes. And very gently we're going to transition to a seated position. You could do so by simply rolling over to one side, lifting yourself back up, taking all the time that you need. And we'll meet in any comfortable seat that works for you. So that might be cross-legged, it might be on a chair, it might be sitting on the edge of your bed. And then once you've arrived, all together, let's come back to that Ujjayi breath by inhaling through the nose. And exhaling, keeping the lips softly closed. And then placing your left hand down behind you, or maybe holding onto the side of the chair if that's where you are sitting this morning. Take some big sweeping circles going backwards with the right arm. So you control the size of this circle. You might progressively start to reach a little bit further with those fingertips. You might follow the movement with your gaze. And let's take one more here. And return to center. And before we do the second side, just take a moment to close the eyes. Just notice if you feel any difference between that right and left. So the side that we've already worked on, and the side that is still waking up. And we'll see if we can even those out a little bit by leaning towards the right now, placing the palm down. You can also place the hand over on the left leg if it's not appropriate to place weight onto that palm for today. And then once you're ready, starting to take that left arm around, making sure, as always, that any vascular points are safe and that you're not forcing any movement. This is all about setting the tone for your day. And one more. And exhaling to release. Wonderful job. We'll bring the feet out a little bit in front of us now, keeping the toes lifted and the hands behind us. If this is uncomfortable, you can also come down onto the forearms as well. We're just going to walk in place a little bit. So lifting one foot up, setting it down, and then switching sides. Keep the gaze forwards. You're welcome to close the eyes again. And keep just a little bit of lift in the chest here. Think about opening through the heart space and the rib cage. Waking up through those hip flexors in the front of the thighs. And let's take one more on each side. Wonderful. And then we'll move from a seated position to a standing position. So I'd like you to be really mindful here about how you do this. Perhaps you're sitting on the edge of your bed and you might put one hand to the wall to kind of lift your way up. Or maybe you're close to a chair and like me, you were sitting down on the floor, in which case folding one foot underneath, maybe crawling your way over towards that chair, placing a hand wherever it makes sense to you so that you can step one foot up and then really slowly and mindfully, maybe holding both hands, pushing into that supporting leg. And eventually we meet in a standing position. Do take a moment if you need to just keep hold of that chair just until you really feel ready to move on. And then coming to the center of your mat, keeping the feet roughly underneath the hip points. Let's all together roll the shoulders back. And once again, let's check in with ourselves. So closing the eyes, inhaling through the nose, and exhaling. Let's do that one more time. Inhaling. And exhaling. Wonderful. Blink the eyes open. Give yourself a moment to smile. And we'll take some little side rocks here. So again, we're not taking this very far at first. Maybe the movement grows over time. Maybe you experiment with looking up towards the ceiling on one side and then the other. Notice the fingertips just kind of naturally gliding up the sides of the legs. And the next time you're over towards the left, I'd like you to hold here. Think about sending those hips a little bit over towards the right as you keep the upper body reaching towards the left. And you might keep your left hand to your hip. You might experiment with reaching the right hand up and over, or maybe bringing the hand behind the head, or you might prefer to keep it at your side for today. And let's take one more inhale here. And an exhale shifts the body back into center. Very nicely done. Again, how do you feel? Personally, my right side's feeling a little bit more open with that work we've just done, so we'll balance that out. So shifting the hips over towards the left, upper body comes right. Maybe the gaze turns to look just slightly over your left shoulder. Right hand at the hip, left hand hanging free behind the head or reaching long. Inhaling here. And the exhale sweeps you back into center position. We'll work on our balance a little bit, so we're going to be on our feet for large parts of the day with this morning practice helping us to kind of get that going. And we'll come into tree pose. So if you have done some yoga before, you might be familiar with tree pose where we have one foot to the inner thigh, but there's lots of variations, lots of different ways that we can practice this. So let's come over towards our chair, or maybe again you keep the fingertips on a wall just for stability. And we'll start by standing on the left foot, really pressing all four corners down, and just turn the right foot out. So this is a wonderful tree pose right here. I'm keeping my right toes on the mat, and just that right heel is just kind of brushing against my inner left ankle. And I could stay right here and just observe how that feels, maybe play around with the second hand on the hip, or hands to prayer in front of the chest. If you're feeling like you'd like to play a little bit more, maybe you bring the foot to the inner calf or the inner thigh, just as long as you're not placing the foot on the knee. We don't want that to push us off kilter here. So choose your own adventure. You can keep the hand on the chair. You can bring the hands to prayer. You might even turn this into a tall tree and imagine yourself swaying in the breeze. And if you fall out of it, if you need to take that step forward, no problem. First of all, we all fall in yoga. And second of all, it's just about having a play and teaching the body something new. And when you are ready, we'll set that right foot down, kind of step it out a little bit. That always feels nice. And we'll see how we do on the second side. Usually most of us will have a strong and a weak side. So you're about to see my weak side. So again, turning that left foot out, heel can come to the inner ankle, foot can come to the inner calf, or maybe to the inner thigh, but just not the knee. So think about really sending that left knee out towards the side of the body, maybe even giving it just a very gentle press with that left hand, if that's accessible, and choosing where you'd like to be on this second side. You can even experiment with closing the eyes. And that might help you observe a little bit more closely all the work these tiny little bones and muscles in our feet and ankles need to do all day long to keep us upright and mobile. And a final inhale here. And final exhale. And then open the eyes if they were closed. Return the knee towards center, softly set that foot down, and step it out. And we'll take one last little balancing exercise before I send you on your way for today. Maybe holding onto that chair once again, left hand to the hip, pressing down strongly into the left foot. so that we can pull the right knee in gently towards the chest, any amount. Maybe you hold here, maybe you feel comfortable placing the second hand to the hip as well. So this is still an active lift. Our hip flexors are still working here. And then really slowly, with control, returning the toes, the ball of the foot, and the heel to the floor. And after shaking that off, we'll compare our balance on the second side by lifting the heel, the toes, and pulling the knee in towards the chest. You might observe that one knee comes in a little bit closer. It's always nice to learn something about our own bodies, especially first thing in the morning. So one last inhale and exhale here, pulling the knee in ever so gently. And then inching it back with control towards the mat. And then all together, let's find a center position here, balanced on both feet. Just let the arms hang at your side. Close the eyes one final time. Come to stillness so that you can observe whatever it is you're taking with you into your day. And allow yourself that moment of pride and gratitude for starting your day out with a little bit of self-care. We'll take one final deep round of breath together, inhaling to sweep the arms up towards the sky, and exhaling to bring the palms back down towards heart center. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wish you a beautiful rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.